أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم ففهمنا سليمان وكلنا آتينا حكما وعلما رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم سبحانك لما وحنانيك علم لا تنسني ولا تنسني الحمد لله أفضل الحمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله وسائر النبيين والصالحين وسلم اللهم وفقني واهدني وسددني واجمع لي بين الصواب والثواب وعذني من الخطأ والهرمان آمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another episode of Questions and Answers. I'm your host Amjad Muhammad, and I'll be with you for approximately an hour up till 8 p.m. inshallah, dealing with your questions, your queries and your curiosities. I'm going to try to preserve my voice as well. As you know, I wasn't here last week, Thursday and Friday, and I wasn't live with you yesterday either because I'm not sure if I can show wounds on live TV, but I had an operation last Thursday, slit literally across my throat, which is all stitched up now, alhamdulillah. Otherwise I'd be bleeding all over this beautiful blue settee. And I had what's called my parathyroid gland removed from the side of my voice box, and its job is to extract calcium from the bones, but they can become a little bit hyperactive in some cases, and mine was a little bit hyperactive and they needed to remove it. So I was in for a daycare operation on Thursday, and then obviously subsequently been trying to recover. It shouldn't have a direct impact on the voice, but obviously because I have a good 3-inch cut across my neck, literally in front of my voice box, then as that is paining and as that has swollen, obviously as it tries to recover, then it's applying pressure on my voice box, but also applying pressure when I try to eat or drink anything. Similarly, when I turn my neck fully to the right and fully to the left as well. So I've been trying to take it easy, but unfortunately everything we do involves the voice, involves the neck, involves the throat. So, you know, it just reminds you of the gratitude we should show to Allah for the fact that, you know, our whole body and everything within it, how much we take for granted. Because, you know, you get damaged in this way and you really realize how everything fits in together and how something can relatively small can have a devastating impact on your sort of life and also quality of life. Well, alhamdulillah, it's out now. So tomorrow morning I should be going in to have my stitches removed. And I don't know, I guess I'm going to be left with a bit of a scar. But I guess these are the advantages of having a beard because the scar will be well hidden behind my beard, so it won't scare people off too much when they see it. But I'm supposed to make a full recovery in terms of the voice shouldn't be affected, and also obviously it shouldn't affect swallowing or talking or anything like that. But I've been told to take things easy for a couple of weeks whilst obviously I recover fully, because also the trauma of an operation which is of such a nature, that takes a while for the body to recover from that as well, because you're put under general anesthetic as well. On top of that, your body is then trying to recover, your eating habits change, your sleeping habits change. They need to put you on pretty strong painkiller, and then you slowly are coming off that painkiller. You're being given opioids like codeine as painkiller drugs, and they are basically like, you know, an opium derivative, so you've got to slowly come off them as well, otherwise it can be addictive. And therefore, you know, and prepare yourself. But here we are, alhamdulillah, soldiering on, as they say, here to deal with your questions, your queries and your curiosities, as is our method. You'll need the number, and that is 01274 214299. And let me remind you again, 01274 214299. And if you do please have a question or just a call, just to see how things are. Maybe you got some comments. I know from the notes that Maulana Fazl Dad has been writing, there's been some talk about the Qatar Football World Cup, FIFA and all the rest of it. So I don't know, unless he was making notes himself, deciding who's going to win the football championship this year. 227.5 million per day. I don't know, is that how much money FIFA are making from this? 5 billion viewers. Okay, that must be the number of people watching the World Cup. Well, if there's 5 billion viewers, that's nearly the whole planet watching it. So yes, it's quite a lot of money if that's the rate at which they are making it. I think it lasts for a month, doesn't it? Up until about the 18th of December, so it lasts for a month. So 300 million per day is a lot of money, basically. So if that's what FIFA makes, surely FIFA doesn't make all of that, because what does it spend it on? Anyway, I'm just having a little nosy at these notes. So maybe you've got some questions about that. Maybe you've got some questions about the what you can see as perceivable hypocrisy that we're seeing in terms of European countries in particular pushing a certain culture, pushing a certain way of life onto a completely different sovereign state that has its own culture and has its own practices. Anyway, 01274 214299. If, on the other hand, you wish to email, then the email address is qa@iqra.tv. That's qa@iqra.tv. As I mentioned previously, and as I'm sure you're getting used to now, I have been, alhamdulillah, in the office here close to a month now. Yes, I think, what's the date today? Today is the 24th. So, yeah, it's coming up to at least 4 weeks, if not slightly over 4 weeks. By middle of next week, I would have been in the office for a month now, so I'm getting used to the systems. And we've had a number of phone calls, alhamdulillah, that come in during the day. And we've had a few drop-in sessions as well, where people have come in, booked a time, and then we've had conversations and discussions with their particular issue that they would like to discuss from a Sharia perspective. Furthermore, I've been in discussions with a CPD, Continuous Professional Development Company, and we're looking to put on a few courses here at the Bradford Al Khair Foundation. And inshallah, the first one will be on the 8th of January, if I'm not mistaken, which is a Sunday. Obviously, we'll give you details closer to the time, and they'll probably be placed on the Iqra channel as well. And that will be one on mental health in particular. It will be delivered here at the Bradford site. So you would have to come to the Bradford site, but it's not that far to travel, you know. Especially the delivery will be by a colleague of ours that has done, in fact, you'll see him on the Two White Muslims. He's the actual non-white Muslim, even though it's called Two White Muslim, and that's Kauthar Thai. So he'll be delivering something with me on mental health from an Islamic perspective, taking the Quran and the Sunnah into consideration. So bear that date in mind. That's the 8th of January, around 5 p.m. inshallah, open till 8 p.m. here at the Al Khair Iqra Studios on Manchester Road. You already know the address, 918 Manchester Road, BD5 8DH, I think it is, if I'm not mistaken. But you will have the details online. And as I said, once we get the dates confirmed and we're ready to do the publications and the promotion, we might make a short video and have it on running on Iqra TV as well. At least it will be on our socials. That's another reminder. We do have our socials now as well. Bradford Al Khair for the Facebook and also the Twitter. And so that information is available. And we have a caller who's called on 01274 214299. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear caller.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Young man, how are you?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. How are you?
I'm recovering, mashallah, after my operation. So yeah, things are getting better, slowly but surely. How have you been?
Yes, good, alhamdulillah.
You've been away a while, haven't you? What have you been doing?
I mean, I don't have an excuse this time.
Honesty is the best policy. Yeah. Or when there's no point winging it and trying something different and sort of say, what shall I tell him? Shall I tell Ustaji this? Shall I tell Ustaji that? Shall I tell Ustaji? No, just tell it, say it as it is, and that is the best way. Go on. You've got 2 questions for me.
4.
How many?
4.
4?
Yeah.
4 questions. Okay, you're making up for lost time, aren't you? So I'm gonna have to get a notepad and pen.
I thought you would. I was gonna say you might need a notepad.
Well, here we go. Let's see. Number 1.
So number 1 is, can you wear a tie in Islam?
Can you wear a tie? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, wear a tie. Okay. Yep. Number 2.
Num- what are the two types of makruh acts and what are the difference between them?
Whoa, these look like some textbook questions. 2 types of makruh acts. I think what you mean by that is the 2 types of makruh. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And what are they? And a little bit of detail. Okay. Number 3.
What are the two types of najasa and what are their differences?
2 types of najasa and the differences. Yep.
And last but not least, this is a big question.
Last but not least, go on. What's last but not least?
What is the Islamic point of view on the theory of evolution?
Whoa.
I know because we're covering it in school in a bit, so
That's a
just
bit.
to see the Islamic point of view.
That's deep, mashallah. You know what? I will excuse you for your absence because you've come up with some right questions, mashallah. So you have been excused. Your excuse has passed, and we look forward to seeing you again or hearing from you again, inshallah, shortly.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, man. Take care. Okay, excellent set of questions. Look like some right textbook questions there as well, and also an interesting one right at the end. So yes, just to remind you of the phone number that our young student there rang on, 01274 214299. Please do call it. We have plenty of time today, alhamdulillah, because I managed to make it to the studio well in time. As I was explaining it to Adil earlier, alhamdulillah, at the moment I'm okay because my students that I teach are revising for their exams. I teach Sahih al-Bukhari and Sunan al-Tirmidhi and one volume of Muslim. So they are now currently revising. I popped in to see them and they are in the main revising. You know what they say, when the cat's away, the pigeons will play. So in the main they're revising and their exams start next week-ish. And therefore they will soon have their heads down and trying to get their exams done. So then, you know, my timing will be back to driving like a maniac across from BD3 to get to here to BD5 in like a space of like 5-6 minutes, which is not possible, I know that, because it's about a 12-minute journey. So I always end up getting here about 10 past, quarter past, nearly 20 past. But at the moment, alhamdulillah, enjoy the time that I have to not be rushing around. So let's go through these questions that we have. Question number 1, can you wear a tie? Now, much to do with what we call attire rather than tie, which was pretty much associated with Western attire, going back maybe 40, 50 years or so. So we, in the Eastern world, we have a culture, and this isn't just Muslims, but in the Eastern world generally, and also we saw when the indigenous population of Canada and the indigenous population of USA and the indigenous population of Mexico and South America, all these people were what we call colored people, or people of more of a spiritual and religious and, you know, more honorable societies. And most of them would obviously ensure that their dress was appropriate. There were obviously, doesn't go without saying, communities and societies in Asia and communities and societies in South America and also in countries in Africa that dressed very, very little, very scantily because of the temperatures and things. But generally speaking, you find that, even if you look at Japanese culture, Chinese culture, Korean culture, you will say that people wore loose-fitting clothing, which covered all their body. And whereas we find within Western society predominantly, especially after the 50s and 60s and 70s, that people were more used to wearing less clothing, even though the temperature was colder and cooler, and also more sort of tight-fitting clothing, relatively speaking. And that's why we saw the shirt kind of shrink. So where you find the kameez being longer, you see that a jubba is quite long and a abaya is quite long, and then we see the kameez of a shalwar kameez being slightly shorter, and then we see the shirt, which is like the Western style of shirt, is usually tucked in to the trousers. And similarly, we see quite loose-fitting pants, which it doesn't really matter anyway because there's an abaya or a jubba or something that goes over them. Those becoming tighter and tighter. And a tie was one of those kind of pieces of clothing as well. And there's difference of views of whether that's associated with the cross due to Christianity that was worn in that way, whatever. However, now in present day and age, one would not consider the wearing of a tie to be impermissible. Okay, it is a dress now which has become cultureless or has no religious connotations because that type of dress now is so widespread within all societies, within all people. And it would make it unnecessarily difficult upon Muslims also if we took a very strict stance towards it and said that wearing the tie would be impermissible. So that's question number one answered, that yes, it would be permissible to wear a tie. Next question, and these two look like really textbook questions, so I think the young lad from Leicester is going to be checking my answers here. So they said, what are the two types of makruh? So one is what we refer to as al-makruh tahrimi, and one is al-makruh tanzihi. Okay, so you can hear the word makruh. Makruh is the same. So what does the word makruh means? Now makruh comes from the root letters of karaha, karaha, okay, which means disliked, something which is not preferred, something which the law looks down upon, something which the law considers problematic. It is then the sifa, the adjective of the makruh, which gives us more clarity as to what we're referring to. We have makruh tahrimi. Its root letters are ha, ra, mim, which if we look at it comes from haram, hurmat, muhrim, ihram, things of that nature. So, and then the other one is tanzihi, okay, which is nun za ha. So that is talking about something which is lesser of so. So makruh tahrim means a disliked which is close to hurma, which is close to haram. And makruh tanzih is disliked, but it is close to halal. Okay, so they're the two differences. Now, many fuqaha, many ulama from the times gone by would use the word al-makruh tahrim even though they would like to use the word haram. The reason why they would use the word al-makruh tahrim is because they could not find any absolute unequivocal proof from the Quran or the Hadith to say literally verbatim that has to be haram because the Quran says it so. So many people, you know, they will be provocative and they will say, is smoking haram? You know, is smoking tobacco haram? And some ulama will feel uncomfortable to use the word haram. Reason why is because they will not be able to find a specific verse from the Quran or find a specific hadith from the Quran which actually says that smoking is haram. And therefore they would feel uncomfortable, so they would go with the makruh tahrim. So people say, that means it's not actually haram then, is it? Which it is, because I've just explained that makruh tahrim is close to haram. It is literally haram. But people will find that as an excuse, say, oh well, that doesn't mean it's haram, it means it's okay to do, you know, it's only makruh, you know, it's disliked, like something small, like, oh, I don't like, you know, spaghetti, for example. It's not that I hate it, I just don't like it. It's nothing like that whatsoever. These terminology, these terms are for the fuqaha, for the ulama to use, not for general public to use. That's when they're determining what type of expiation is required when a person commits a makruh tahrimi sin and when a person commits a makruh tanzihi sin, and what's the ruling. So that's where it comes from. So in reality, anything which is tahrim, makruh tahrim, it should be avoided, absolutely, because if a person commits it, it is a sin, and a person will be considered sinful and punishable by the law, punishable by the Sharia. So one has to be very, very careful. The other tanzihi is that it is close to halal. It is still frowned upon. It is still something that we should avoid. but it does not have the same level of gravity, it does not have the same level of concern